Welcome to another episode of CIOtv. I'm your host, Mike Stockwell, and today we're joined by Chris Young, coming to us from Memphis, Tennessee. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Chris, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, specifically around your IT experience and then maybe some of the organizations that you've worked for?
Sure. I started out my career in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania after I finished up at the University of Pittsburgh. And I started with a company called Consolidated Natural Gas, and I started out on the help desk there as I finished my undergraduate and as I was going to graduate school at night. From there, moved to North Carolina, worked for a company called United Guarantee, which is in the mortgage insurance industry. Probably nobody's heard of United Guarantee. But when I tell you they're owned by AIG, everybody's heard of AIG.
Sure.
The financial crisis hits. I end up leaving United Guarantee, and then I change industries again and go to work for Old Dominion Freight Line, which is in the less than truckload industry within transportation and logistics. Was there for about 12 years, and then moved on to FedEx, where I've been most recently, and that was in the role of leading the CIO practice in their LTL freight division.
Well, very good. Sounds like a very well-rounded background, working your way up and ultimately landing in that CIO office. So
Sure.
kudos to you. So one thing that jumped out at me about your past was your experience and abilities around transformation. Is there some things you could share with us around? I know that maybe not specifically which organization, but just how that worked out for you.
Sure. I think as you think through legacy transformation, whether you're coming off a mainframe or an I-Series platform or any of the other kind of legacy platforms that a lot of companies are dealing with that have been around for multiple decades, the first thing you got to do is really determine, why are you doing it, right? There's a number of different reasons why you'd want to, transform off of legacy technologies. It could be a cost issue. Legacy technologies are fairly expensive to maintain. It could be a skill set issue. The people that know how to support these legacy languages and technologies get closer and closer to retirement every year, and you may want to be proactive in moving off. It could be that you're hamstrung. You want to grow the business, you want to move things forward, and your legacy technologies are holding you back. So I think the first thing to figure out and really establish is, why are you doing it? Mm-hmm. The second thing is how are you going to do it, right? There's code conversion tools that'll take your old legacy COBOL or RPG or what have you, and it'll convert it. And they've come a long way, and that's certainly one way to do it. You can move functionality to cloud-based solutions. That's another way to do it. You can reimagine and rewrite these applications from scratch using modern technologies, or you can use a combination of all three. But first you got to figure out why, then you got to figure out how. The other thing I want to make sure everybody understands is you've got to focus on the data. The data becomes the key component at the end of all of this, right? You've got to get the data from the legacy technologies, and you've got to get it to modern platforms. And a lot of companies, and some of the ones I've worked with, are in this boat as well. In the past, the data and the applications all resided on the same hardware. And so you end up with this big, kind of hairball or rubber band ball of applications and data that are all intertwined. You've really got to pay a lot of attention to that on the front end to say, what are we going to do with the data, and what is the data going to look like on the back side of this thing? And then the last thing is really, I'd almost argue, the most important, and that's the relationships, right? You've got to have really strong buy-in from executive leadership on all sides, on the IT side and on the business side. You've got to have strong relationships and buy-in, because at the end of the day, you're going to take a company offline as you probably migrate these legacy technologies. You've got to have a lot of trust built up. So focusing on relationships is also something that shouldn't be ignored. It's not all just about the technology as you go through this.
Yeah, very, very good points. One of the things that I continue to hear out there is the number of folks that are getting pulled out of retirement because of the AS4 administrators. They're not teaching that anywhere these days.
Right.
It is to your point, legacy systems that still need support are run in some of the biggest organizations in the world, and it appears that it's here for a while. So we'll see.
It is, and it's very tricky because, again, I always tell people these applications have been around for decades for a reason, right? They run the business, they're stable, they're reliable, and so moving off of them is not for the faint of heart, right? It takes a lot of hard work to migrate off these technologies because they've been around for a reason. But you hit the nail on the head. A large part of it's going to be a skill set issue, and people are getting pulled out of retirement, and the last thing you want to do is take too long to start this, because then it'll become a fire drill, and now you're really putting the business at risk if you get, however you do this, if you end up with any type of date-driven reasons for doing it, you're in trouble.
Well, thank you so much. The very great conversation. Love hearing from a position of authority. Grateful that you joined us on today's show, but unfortunately that's all we have time for.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, good. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Well, that's a wrap. We'll see you next time on CIOtv.